Welcome everybody back to the all Juvecast channel, and this is podcast episode 156, featuring my man Luca. Luca, I wish, and I find myself wishing this a lot this season, and it's frustrating, but I wish we had better circumstances to talk about because it's a draw against Fiorentina, one that unfortunately felt like a loss, really. But we will briefly recap what went down in Fiorentina versus Juve, and then tackle all the surrounding topics and storylines going on around it. And unfortunately, this term is being thrown out a lot with the pod this season, which is doing the Lord's work. Luca, man, how are you doing? How are you doing?
Personally, I'm not bad. I mean, the weather could be nicer, but you know what's weird? Yesterday in the afternoon, I had like this weird mood. I was like, it was nice outside. It wasn't like the end of the world. Anything I had, personal life, everything's good. And I'm like, why am I bummed out? When you're just trying to figure out what's bothering you, I'm like, shit. It's Juve that might not make top four this season. That's bumming me out. It's like such a negative part of my life, and I didn't realize it. I'm like, holy crap, it's affecting me that much.
It's intense, man. It's intense. As soon as the match ended, I was like, man, we were talking in the chat a bit and whatnot, but all of us, we knew it was just like, go find something to do. Like
Yeah.
yard work, have a beer, whatever. I just ended up spending a bunch of time with my family, and it was the best thing I could have done. We get so caught up, and then you're checking the news feed and you're refreshing the timeline and everything. And it's just, it is what it is. I mean, this season is definitely not anywhere near what anybody would have wanted or how we want it to go, but it's time for a change. Juve's got a lot of work to do. They got to figure it out. They got to sort things out. We're gonna get into this one, the recap, and then talk about basically everything that Juventini are rifling through here. And real quick before we get into it, just a heads up: if people are listening to this on the audio side only, please keep in mind that these podcasts are all recorded live. You can be part of these discussions. Join the chat room on YouTube. So subscribe to the All Juvecast YouTube channel. We also got some pretty cool videos and extra Juve content coming out real soon. And be sure to check out Striped Hearts Apparel. Proceeds go to charity, and the rest help support the pod, really, because there are costs incurred and whatnot. So all the support is very much welcome. And thank you, everybody. Let's get into this, man. Fiorentina, Juve. This is obviously the first time Fiorentina could pull the double since 1968 or whatnot. Is the last time Fiorentina pulled the double on Juve. None of us were expecting it. We went through our pre-match. All of us thought Juve was going to be able to pull this one out, get the victory. When we looked at the starting lineup, there was more than enough to beat these guys on the pitch. No excuses for the guys that are out there. If we want to get into guys that didn't start or anything like that, it's just irrelevant for me. The guys that were on the pitch, more than enough, man. Ronaldo, Dybala up top, Sandro, Quadrado as wing backs, Rabiot, Bentancur, Ramsey in the middle, Chiellini, Bonucci, De Ligt at the back. 3-5-2. A lot of Juventini, a little bit surprised that all of a sudden we're going 3-5-2. I said it on the pre-match when I saw the lineups, is that for me, you have a match prior that you get completely stretched in a two-man pivot, and you're playing another team that also plays the same way in lining up with that five across as Fiorentina does as well. So I thought he was just trying to counteract that. But a lot of people were just like, why would now all of a sudden you've gone 4-4-2 consecutively for so many matches in a row? Now you go to 3-5-2. What were your thoughts on that starting lineup and the 3-5-2 shape, Luca?
Well, when I first woke up and saw it, I was even surprised that they announced it as a 3-5-2. Like usually it's always the 4-4-2, and then he'll switch it around. But this time he straight up went for it, and I was actually excited. I remember listening to the pre-match that you were doing, and I'm thinking, oh my god, 3-5-2, and Ramsey's actually starting in this, and I'm thinking, 3-man mid gives them space to roam, allows them to flood the midfield. You've got Quadrado on one side, who's in that role, I think, more effective because it is more an offensive role. And we've got Dybala starting with Ronaldo. So I'm thinking it's not that bad. I was pretty excited. I'm okay, Ramsey, prove yourself. Now you have to go for it. Fiorentina's not in the best form, but obviously they always show up against us, so don't underestimate. But overall, I was excited. I'm thinking, you know what? I mean, I would have preferred maybe different mids, but like you said, this team from what the lineup we saw should get the job done. So I was excited. I was like, okay, I don't know why he's going for this. No one knew why, right? So we're all like, why did you change randomly? But I was excited to see how it could perform because I think the 3-5-2 when we have used it this season was effective in certain games. But also it was different lineups. I think it was different players that went out. So maybe that's why. But yeah, initially I was excited. Initially.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things, everybody's, I think at this point now, gonna just shit on anything and everything as long as it doesn't work out. And it's hindsight's becoming very, very short period of time to pick out Pirlo's errors and everything like that and whatnot. And it's interesting what happened at halftime in this one that we'll get into. But the match kicks off, and one of the things we talked about on the pre-match was this should be a really easy match to get amped up for if you're Juventus and to get fired up about. Hostile environment, in Fiorentina there. We saw the crowds basically throwing any COVID protocol out the window to go shoulder to shoulder to get pumped up for their match of the season or whatnot. But this is it. It's rivalry. They also embarrassed us in the one before, whether it was one man short or whatnot, the early Quadrado being sent off, whatnot. Regardless, they won 3-0. You're fighting for top four. It's a rivalry match. These teams hate each other, and you want to even up the score. This is an easy one to get pumped up for. You should not be flat. So I was not expecting what we saw at the beginning of this match, which was pretty much all Fiorentina at the start of this thing. They were just taking it to Juve. All right. 12th minute, CR7 with a brutal giveaway. Comes back, and Ribery pretty much takes it right to the top of the 18, slots a little ball ahead for Vlahovic. Szczesny does very, very well to come out and intervene there. 18th minute, Szczesny makes a save on a long drive from Milinkovic. 20th minute, Polgar takes a shot that deflects off one of our defenders, hits the post, and then smacks Szczesny in the chest or whatnot, and he grabs onto it. Otherwise, I believe Vlahovic was in the vicinity as well to finish. It's all Fiorentina. 21 minute, they get shouts for a PK for Fiorentina, but to no avail. 24th minute, Szczesny kind of bobbles one. And I'm thinking, oh man, like we're just, they're all over us. 26th minute, Rabiot on this. Like, I don't understand how you're looking up at the ball, it's coming down, and your arm is like straight up to it. I'm just not sure how you don't at least make the attempt to throw it out to the side or move it away. I'm just not entirely sure how he does that. Unbelievable. Anyways, they get the PK. Vlahovic steps up, pulls the Panenka. They go up 1-0, and I'm just furious at this point. I'm just furious watching this because I don't understand why there's just no signs of life all the time. And I get that when you're watching this play out, even in the first half hour, it's really bad possession-wise for Juve. It's literally just going from one flank to the other. Okay, it's just going Sandro to Quadrado, and then they're stuck. And then anytime they try to make an inwards pass, you could see the numbers, Fiorentina. You could see the energy, like they're just surrounding our players, forcing us to retreat, whatnot. And when Fiorentina played their style of football, we were the opposite. Their players were getting space. Their players were allowed to just operate and whatnot. Our press was non-existent. Like it was strange, and we were just doing the same thing over and over. Just the same thing over and over. I was like, okay, so there's no aerial balls. Like Ronaldo and the ball are just coming and showing forward, but nobody's actually making a penetrating run. Ramsey's kind of like in this flux where he's not really committing to supporting the forwards, and he's kind of staying back. Like it was just the whole thing was just a mess, really. But the first half hour, man, I'm pissed right off. Your thoughts on that first opening half hour?
First 5 or 10 minutes weren't that bad. I think obviously, matches started. It's like, okay, let's ease into this. I think we got an attempt where I think Ramsey like backheeled it to Quadrado on the right side, and he played it in. I don't think it got to anybody, but there's like 5 minutes in, and I'm like, okay, something's happening. But then, like you said, like those first 30 minutes afterwards, like 20, like after the 5th or 10th minute, from like then on, once they just started pounding us, I'm like, okay, well, we're playing a 3-5-2. We're gonna absorb some pressure. I'm expecting that. But it was what you said is when we had possession, that this system, like I was excited initially, but everything I was excited for just didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Our mids didn't control sweet F all. They were getting bossed by a bald man with a beard, and I was just like, you know what? Props to this midfield, because okay, Castrovilli is like off pace right now. He's not in form. He's usually not even a starter, but talented. Amrabat is an engine. Like that guy runs like nothing was, and they bossed our midfield like nothing was. And yes, Ramsey was not defensively, giving much, but also going forward, I think he was still a little lost. I blame that on just lack of playtime and throwing into a new system. So yes, he wasn't perfect. Obviously, I will be the first to say it. He was not good in start, but nobody was. Like you said, we had nothing going forward. You go to Sandro, you're like, where's this going? Sandro, I remember he'd open up his body, look, give it. He'd just try to give it to Ronaldo, but it would hit the player and go out. You had no option. I'm like, this is our offensive threat.
And that's part of the frustrating part, Luca, is watching this. To wrap up the first half highlights, really, that was the opening half hour. In the 42nd minute, Ramsey gets a big miss on some great buildup from Juve. That was as close as they come up. I thought his first touch wasn't as good as it should have been, because he should have been able to slot the shot. He ended up having to extend. So I heard the commentator say, "Oh, great first touch by Ramsey." I thought it was the opposite, because he touch was a little heavy, made him have to slide for it. I thought if he just takes a nicer touch and rolls it ahead of him, he could slot home. But regardless, that was as close as we would come. And then we go into halftime. I hear you 100%. I feel all the same frustrations. Anthony coming in here saying that was a penalty on Bonucci. So let's go back to that play, which was in the 21st minute, where he steps in front of Vlahovic. I initially thought, watching that, they were going to call that.
Same.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those ones that honestly, I don't know, like the step in there or whatnot. It was like, I don't know, the leg is what got me, the shoulder to shoulder, putting a little nudge on a guy, I'm okay. But he also had the foot that kind of come across. And when you watch that one angle, you're like, oh, yeah. I thought for sure he was going to call it. So we kind of got away from that too. And that just shows like, man, we were just, they took it to us. Start of this game. So halftime hits. And again, in a match where you think it should be very, very easy for Juve to get pumped up and at least show that attitude and drive, they're not. We're flat yet again. And at halftime, it's just like, what are we going to do? Adjustments have to be made, because we're literally going flank to flank, and the movement off the ball is the biggest thing I notice. And when you watch any other club play, and then you watch this Juve, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like we have games where we do it, and we have a lot where it's non-existent. And this was one of them. You talk about the ball moving to the flanks. Sandro would get the ball. Our entire team has shifted. Like the spacing is an absolute mess, even with the midfielders. And I saw multiple occasions guys were in the same area, and then we'd get the ball out to Sandro. He literally has nobody to pass into. The midfielders aren't where they should be, aren't being an option move for. The forwards, Dybala and Ronaldo, were still on the opposite side. And the frustrating part is nobody's hustling to get into an area to be an option. Every time a player should get the ball, you should have a minimum of 2 options moving forward, and a lot of those times those guys had 0. And if you were banking on Cuadrado to win 1v1s, the space was crammed because, again, the way Fiorentina blocked out, and they had numbers, and they were working hard defensively. It just wasn't going to happen. So that element gets taken away as well. So you have to figure something out. You have to get these mids more involved. You have to get the movement going. But again, a lot of it too, I just wasn't seeing the effort and determination, man. Like it's just frustrating. Second half, we get some adjustments. Morata comes in and Dybala's out. Kulusevski's in and Bonucci's out. Now, hindsight's 2020, but based on the start of this game, and I saw a lot of people put this out there. Was Dybala the one to get taken out? I thought that him and Ronaldo both weren't looking strong whatsoever. But out of the two, I thought Dybala had a little bit more, at least in terms of when he did get the ball. Frustrating, man. Frustrating. But do you think, would you have kept Dybala on?
Yeah, but that's any realistic fan or not person knowledgeable of soccer knows that if it comes down to Dybala or Ronaldo, it doesn't matter if Dybala just got 2 goals and Ronaldo's missing a leg. The guy's making 31 mil. He's your superstar. They're going to keep him on. I don't care what form he's in, because that's just how it is. Unless you're Sadi and you have the balls the size of, the size of boulders, and you just take him off because he's the only one that I think was able to do that. No, it won't happen. And
my thought was keep the ball out there, but slide him into wherever the hell Ramsey was.
And
get Morata out there.
Yeah.
Just because of how flat it was, and we did need to change things up and get some more possession attack and just a little bit more of a presence centrally in there, and maybe that could have been a play. It was just one of the options I was thinking about at that time. But regardless, we needed some signs of life, man. And I put it in my halftime message. This is where your manager pulls some strings. Pirlo, he pulled some strings, got Bonucci out, obviously switched the system up because we were getting rid of one of the 3 center backs. And then Morata, a 9, comes in, and Kulusevski comes in. 30 seconds into the second half, Morata, we just pop a ball over the top. Imagine that, going over the top when you cannot play to feet and there's no space there. But again, it's the runs he's making as well, and just starting to give our guys that outlet, even in order to just gain space up on that side of the pitch and then move our players forward and try to kind of contain Fiorentina. But he does a great job. I initially thought he was offside by quite a bit watching it. They did review it for quite some time, but Morata did a really good job. He scored a beautiful goal. There you go. Perfect start to the second half. But then again, just nothing really after that, better than the second half, but far from good enough. far from good enough. Better than the second half, but far from good enough. 52nd minute and everything. Even veterans. A scenario where we're, right close to our goal and Chiellini's blocking out players and Chesney just won't come out and get the ball.
What was that hesitation? I'm like, what the fuck are you waiting for?
The communication, like, where is it? And then Chiellini's trying to head it back finally after what felt like an eternity of holding on these players and shielding the ball. And then Chesney just slaps him. I'm thinking, man, we're in shambles. A few more stops from Chesney on Polgar, who actually was doing a good job. Ribery was playing a good job. Vlahovic played a good game. Fiorentina, they approach the game like it means something to them, and Juve, I find they're just not. The approach and the drive and all that fight, it'll help. We know that tactically, I guess now there's just been issues there and whatnot. He got this one wrong. He admitted it. But it's frustrating. And then 83rd minute, Kulusevski with a fantastic cross. And I don't even have words for how that happens. And this is the kind of scenario Juventus finds themselves in, because I would bet my house almost on him finishing that every time. And he missed it completely, and it's frustrating, opportunities like that. But again, if we want to pick out these opportunities where the guys just aren't executing and whatnot, it tells you a story, because this is not the first time we've missed a sitter. It's not the first time that the guys get opportunities in these tight games where maybe you don't deserve that win, but you can snag it. This is the glaring difference between this Juve and the Juve that we've become accustomed to, is that the Juve we've become accustomed to scores that goal and gets out of there with the victory, and then we move forward. You know what I mean? But this season, it's just not happening. And while I know how easy it is for all of us to sit here and say, we sacrificed 10 points between Benevento and Fiorentina in the table this season. And again, we want to pick out these games, and I'm getting into these discussions with Juventini, and they're like, well, this Benevento, like, that's unacceptable to drop points. I agree. It is unacceptable. But it's finding this fine line of, the blame game. And, while I do admit, and I've been saying it, I would the one thing, if we go back to the pods and the shows from the start of this season, I said, hey, Juve hiring Pirlo, how do the expectations remain the same? How do they remain the same? And it was the one thing I had, is that, I love the guy, whatever, as a player or whatnot, but as a manager, I mean, does this wipe out all our expectations? Because for me, I said it at the start, I'll get behind him. I'll support him, whatnot, and I hope he surprises me. And maybe you just never know. Maybe you just never know what could happen. But it didn't quite make a whole lot of fucking sense at the start. But again, when we look at these matches, and you want to pick out that Benevento one, we had 22 opportunities with like 7 or 8 on target, and we didn't score a goal. At some point, for everybody that is just adamant on Pirlo, and I will say this, we're going to get into this discussion right now on Pirlo. The players have to own up to some of this as well. We just have to accept the fact that what we see, repeatedly, is just poor fullback play from Alexandro, and this is going on 3 seasons now. Okay? 3 seasons. Bentancur shows you glimpses and flashes. This has been for multiple seasons now. Okay? Now you factor in the core, who's been gradually getting work. Bonucci, this is not Bonucci's, like Bonucci's been on a downward spiral for a while. Okay. Then all of a sudden you throw in all these new guys. There's a big flux at this team right now. And the thing is, though, now, regardless of what we think, like, top 4 has to be achieved. Is it time, Luca? Do you pull the trigger and just do it now with the games remaining, 3 of which are against the 2 Milan clubs and Sassuolo? Is it time to just pull the trigger?
I'm going to stick to what I said yesterday in our group because, again, the question comes down to I don't think it's a question of time anymore. I think he's had his run, and unless they really have some sort of special backdoor agreement, I don't think he's going to stay for next season. As much as I wanted him to, because now I think it's much more than that, and they have to shake it up somehow, and that's the only way they could. Because player wise, I don't think they can achieve what everyone wants them to achieve. So it's going to come down to the manager, and he has some blame in all this. I'm not gonna stand here and defend him that much, but it comes down majorly to the question, who do we get? And everyone's going to shout the same name. And you know what? I said it yesterday, long term, I don't think Allegri is the good call because of what he did with us in the past. He's a bright coach, and I think initially we're going to have that hangover effect where it's like, oh my God, he's amazing again. But then it will come down to the point where he needs certain players, and he won't get them because he didn't get them in the past. And what's changed? Nothing. It's the same 3 directors up top that caused him to leave in the first place. In my mind, yes, it'll fix short term, and yes, we might get top 4. But then next season, if you don't fix the underlying issues, you're still going to end up with the same problems. And this is always the conversation we're having. Last season it was like, okay, get rid of Sadi, and we can move on from there. They did that. They got some new players, but there's still fundamental issues in this squad, which they haven't fixed.
Yeah, it's tough. So for me, time to pull the trigger. I think this team, we've talked about, like, sure, they need a shock, but you can't just make a change for the sake of making a change. Like,
Exactly.
leaving Tudor as an intern doesn't change anything.
Ugh.
It doesn't change anything. So
Nothing.
You have to find a manager. No manager is going to come in for 5 or 6 games remaining. So You're going to have to commit to a manager. So if Allegri is the answer, and obviously there's reports now. Of course, there would be reports after what happened from media outlets or whatnot, whether it's true or whatnot, but they're saying that Allegri will come. If it is Allegri, you have to commit because he's not going to sign on for, I'll just get you, I'll secure top 4 and then I'm gone.
And then I'm gone.
But now all of a sudden we tie into 3 seasons or whatnot, right? Multiple seasons. Which the thing with me and the fans that are saying Allegri wouldn't have had us in this position, and this is why I firmly believe, like, our players just haven't been up to it. Prime example is Alexandro from Parma match to this match. Night and day. There's nothing stopping Sandro from approaching the game with the same attitude and drive that he did against Parma. But this is what we're getting from our players. They're inconsistent all across the line. Pirlo saw good things and never went with them. And I faulted Sarri for that. And I faulted Allegri towards the end of his tenure with us for it as well. So I have to remain consistent and fault Pirlo for it as well. The 4-2-3-1 that he ended up coming across against Lazio was by far the best the team played and looked.
Yep.
He had us going decent in January. When we went through a hard schedule in January, we only dropped points in 1 match. What changed? The amount of players. He couldn't rotate Dybala, Ronaldo, and Morata anymore. Dybala started off January very, very well, scoring goals, assisting goals, and then he was gone for a while. Then all of a sudden you have to rely on Kulusevski once Morata gets injured as well. and Kulusevski's not a second striker. And we had to rely on that for quite a bit of time. You throw in Artur getting injured, McKennie being on a bad hip, all these things. He didn't have anything going his way. Regardless, man, top 4 is key. So even if the players aren't up to it, getting their players, that's going to change drastically and become very, very difficult for guys wanting to come to this team if we don't hit top 4. Allegri, here's the thing. You can't change all these players all at once. It has to start somewhere. And honestly, would we feel confident with Pirlo going into next season? I'm not so sure.
You see, this is where I'm hesitant because it comes down to, okay, he's had a rough season and he's gonna have to learn. And again, there's not many opportunities of people to pick up out there in terms of coaching. But for me, it's more the question of this was a season where a lot of things went wrong, and a lot of players, as we've mentioned, are just not stepping up to the plate. But if you tell me that he's got another full summer plus a transfer window, plus he's learned, I think there's more chances of him actually doing better than this season than there is of him doing worse. I don't think at this point, I don't think we could do worse. I mean, we could, but if the right moves are made, I think otherwise. And I said this yesterday, we can't keep going into transfer windows without coaches, knowing who our coach is, and then buy players for the wrong coach. It always ends up like this. We have players right now that weren't meant for Pirlo, and they're suffering. And I brought this up yesterday because it's 2 seasons now where our coaches are just, like picked out of a hat, and the players are already on their way. And it's like, oh, now, like, where does Kulusevski go? He doesn't fit in a 3-5-2 or 4-4-2. He fits in a 4-3-3, which Pirlo doesn't play. So no wonder he doesn't fit in anywhere right now because he wasn't meant for this system.
Yeah.
And he's young. Yeah, he's young. We get it. Let's give him a chance. But the prime example.
The whole thing is frustrating. I got into this discussion where a lot of fans get into it with me because I've been just wanting more from our players, and they're just like, it's the coach. The thing is that it isn't. If you look at these guys, because we just named some players that for 3 years now just haven't been good enough.
Right.
Like, I mean, you can start on that, and then you throw in the mix of the new guys, it's inconsistent. And sure, you can find a system where they look better, they play. There's still certain guys that are missing, and now you get into the discussion: will certain players even help this team? Will it even help this team? But the problem is that we are struggling. All I've been saying is that there's a combination of things. Our players aren't being up to it. Okay. But it is tiring to continuously hear our coach say the same things. Now it's just beyond frustrating. We didn't enter the match with the right approach. We didn't have the right mentality. We didn't that's frustrating. And to say it all over again in this match with Fiorentina, which we all agreed is an easy one to get pumped up for. This should have been an easy one. The attitude and the drive should have been the last problem we had, but it isn't. It's over and over and over. And then when you start to look at this, and you cannot change all these players, especially in a COVID window. You can't do it in a normal window, let alone a COVID window. And this is why I think, and believe me, I have been saying, and I truly believe it, you have to create some sort of stability at this club. You have to commit to something and build it. But it's becoming very, very hard with Pirlo when he's coming out and admitting to all these mistakes. We're seeing them. He's been seeing some good things, and he hasn't been able to adapt. I'm starting to now just say, you know what? If we truly feel like he shouldn't have been even offered the job in the first place, maybe it's just finally time to act on that. You know what I mean? Regardless of how we feel he's done his job, even if we do kind of feel sorry for him and bad for him and think that another manager will struggle, because I do think, while everybody wants to talk about Allegri and whatnot, I think even if you put Allegri through this period, this flux, I think he would have to be going against certain ways that he managed the club as well.
Yeah.
So would he have done that? Would we have? There's a lot of question marks there. It's a lot of speculation, but you look at the amount of points we've dropped, and this is the thing too. It's the amount we've dropped away from home. I think Juve's pulled 25 points at 48 possible points away from home, which is staggering, right? It's these lower sides that you drop these points and whatnot. It's these draws that you just can't edge them out. And now this is the part that scares me. There's a lot of matches throughout this season where we weren't getting the points that we talked about earlier on here. You're getting 20-something plus opportunities. A bunch on target. You're just not scoring. You guys are missing sitters here and there. Execution isn't where it needs to be. But now the team is like gone into a soulless state. You know what I mean? Like now it's gotten to where I feel like these guys have honestly given up. Like it's scary. But if we still had the drive, the fight, and the attitude, and it's not falling for us, I can deal with that. But if you can't get a team kind of jacked up or pumped up or motivating these easily ones, and we're fighting for top 4, that's where I'm starting to really lose faith, Luca. And this is where it's starting to worry me. What are your thoughts there?
Again, I think there's only so much you could do by replacing the coach. I think it's gonna end up happening, and you know what? Like I said, he's not hiding from any blame. I think he's our coach. He definitely made some mistakes, but it's like we mentioned. When you look at it aside, take out the coach example. Second half yesterday, we discussed the second one. We talked about how it was better. He got the formation right. He made the right moves. No one can say he didn't make the right moves because he did. We turned it around in the second half. But now you have the right move. You should have the right formation. You have somewhat the good players in place. Why can't we win that game? Why? What is missing? Like you said, it's that sitter. It's these opportunities that are there that are just not being put away.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at, let's say we had a magic wand and we went back in time and we said, let's say of all those chances missed, maybe 15% we actually put away. This is a different season altogether. We're second place, easily maybe even first. So in the end, I'm not like, okay, yes, he's stubborn. He made a lot of mistakes and he's continued making those mistakes. But doesn't that sound familiar? Didn't Sadi do the same thing? Didn't Allegri do the same thing? So for me, as much as I want to say, yes, change the coach, start from fresh, the issue for me as a past player, because I've never been a coach, I'm not in any position to make those decisions. I can only analyze the game so much. As a player, no matter who my coach was, he told me, go on the field, do this, this, this. I did it. But then there's a point where you're on the field and you're with your guys. You're not thinking about your coach yelling at you. You're at some point you're yelling back at him because emotionally you're invested in that game. It is on you to dig deep and to push yourself, whether it's all 11 of you or just one of you. As a player, I'm a kid. I'm talking about some guy who was playing when I was with my friends, right? I never played at this level. I'm not getting paid X amount a year. These guys, if you're telling me they can't muster it within themselves to just push that much more, that's where I'm having the issue. It's not that, okay, we know that Pirlo is a silent leader. We know that. He's not going to start yelling. That's not his style. But we've got guys on the bench, guys in the locker room that yell their heads off. So for me, it's not even about his way of leading, because he's still, he's a tactician. A lot of coaches are like that. They're quiet and, they do their work behind the scenes. So I'm not going to start saying maybe it's his style, because at this point he gets the tactics right. We still don't perform. Yesterday, and I'm going to say this so fucking out loud right now, Cristiano Ronaldo yesterday could have set this game on a different tone. What did he do? Nothing. Nothing. You said it. You'd bet your house on that header. How many times in the last 4 games have we said he should have put that away? He should have put that away. People were ripping apart Ramsey for that that opportunity he had. At least he had it. And for a guy who plays maybe 1 game out of 10, that's not bad. Ronaldo plays 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, and he's 31 mil a season, and he's not putting that away. I'm sorry. And then he makes mistake after mistake after mistake. It's embarrassing that we rely on this guy to score goals, and he wasn't able to. So in the end, if the players step up, him just an example. I'm picking on him because he's the only one I'm thinking about, but there's dozens I can go on right now. If he steps up for that 1 second and pushes himself that much more, it's a different game. If Rabiot makes that one run rather than just sitting there, it's a different game. It comes down to these players wanting to fight for that team, for this club. And a lot of people have said it in our chat. We've lacked that connection. A lot of the guys are screaming for us to sign more Italian players because Italian players know what it's like to play for Juve. And to a certain extent, they have a point, So it comes down to these guys needing to put their mind, body, and soul behind this club and just doing everything they can because, like you said, off the ball, we don't move. We do not do anything. And that is frustrating because this should be at least, at minimum, top 3 teams in Italy. We should be at least minimum. Okay, it's been hard to be number 1 for 9 years straight. I get it. At least top 3. Right now, I wouldn't even put us top 6.
The tough thing is too. While we say this, and I have mixed feelings about everything. And I told you this. I've been, and everybody I talked to, it's like, it's literally like Panja here in the chat put. It's not only coach, it's players, it's staff. While we're in kind of the thing where everybody's got their hands in this, but we were losing our identity towards the end of Allegri's tenure. Then Sarri steps in and everything, and nothing really changes. And then he's talking about the players being untrainable. He loses the dressing room. It's a shit show. Patrice Evra comes out, does his little interview and saying it was a mistake to fire Allegri. For me, it wasn't a mistake to move on from Allegri. It was a mistake how they moved on from Allegri.
Yep.
That was the mistake. Okay. It wasn't the fact that they wanted to go a new route or try something new or change a philosophy or maybe try to find themselves again. It's how they did it. And it's been patchwork since. So the same issues we complain about with our players at times where it's patchwork, we're losing quality and we're not replacing it properly. We did the same thing at a managerial level. And now the same thing that I say with Pirlo is at the start, I was just thinking, have we just wiped out our expectations? You know what I mean? And if we truly, truly feel that way, like he shouldn't have been hired in the first place, do you even continue on? And the reports suggest that if we get top 4, he stays. I don't believe it for a second. I think he's done. So for me, if you had an opportunity to get somebody that we need a certain caliber manager at Juve. If you have the opportunity to bring one of those guys in, then I say do it. Pull the trigger now. But whatever you decide, you just commit to it. So if you do get this guy in, bring in proper players. I don't want these holes all over the roster. I don't want no proper left back or our only option there, the one guy who's been shit for 3 years. And that's rough. That's rough to say he's been shit for 3 years.
No. But you know what?
You're right. He's been good defensively, but it's not proper fullback play.
Right.
It's not what other clubs are getting. Okay. And then in the middle of the park, let's get a creative guy. Let's get a guy with some vision. Let's get somebody that can command the game in there, because we have all these guys and they're all the same. They're all the same, and everybody lacks that. Like McKennie's great at making trailing runs and stuff like that, but he's not the guy that's going to control the game with the ball at his feet. spot these passes and pick it out. And this is another thing in yesterday's match. There were still opportunities. There were still opportunities to attack space. There were still opportunities to make some over-the-head balls. And our guys are just shying away. We play so safe. So there's already no hunger, no desire, no off-the-ball movement. And then we get opportunities to splash the ball around and nobody even takes them. We need so much work. It's everything. So if you have problems with system, and certain guys can't really come to terms with it. If you have problems with guys getting motivated, guys getting pumped up, there's a lack of confidence because the first two aren't there. And it's all trickling down. If you have the opportunity to commit to somebody that's got the experience, do that, commit, and then we can kind of move from there. You have to start somewhere and create some stability. There's too many questions surrounding this club at a managerial level, even going to Agnelli now. Will Agnelli remain? Paratici's reported to leave in the summer and stuff.
Good. Get rid of him.
It's just like lock some stuff in, get some stability, get an experienced coach, but let's seriously stop with the patchwork in the middle of the park. Anthony's saying, isn't Arthur supposed to be the creative presence in the midfield? The truth is he just isn't.
He isn't.
He just isn't. You know, he's great at controlling the ball enough, but the passes are the same. They're lateral. I say we need you definitely need a driving force in the middle. You need somebody that can dribble, that can attack, that can spot these plays. Exactly what Ribery fucking did yesterday. We don't have a guy that could do that. And
no. We do. They just don't do it. If you're telling me that, for example, or whether it's Cristiano or Chiesa or Ronaldo, or Dybala, you're telling me these guys can't do what Ribery did yesterday? Absolute bullshit.
Out of the middle of the park, Luca. Out of our midfields. Out of our midfields, who does that out of our midfields? Ramsey?
This is where I'm going to answer the question. I think Arthur could do it, but I think because of his form and his injury, and because he hasn't been playing often, it won't happen. I think we saw it in that phase in January where we were like, top shit. Who were our two starting mids? It was McKennie and Arthur, and everybody said it. This is our best mix. Since then, they have not played together because of injuries. So I think again, it comes down to just unluck.
However, though, here's the thing, Luca. Here's the thing. We're not talking about wide open games. Because in wide open games and acres of space, even Rabiot can fucking do it. And those guys can do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Fiorentina played the low block. And this has been a storyline of Juve for 3 seasons now. Teams that play the low block, all of a sudden, all these guys look the fucking same because they cannot do it. There's nobody in the middle of the park that's a dribbler. Chiesa's a winger. Chiesa's a winger. He could do it for sure. He's a winger. He's not going to drop into the middle of the park. Out of the middle of the park, when the space is congested and it gets tight, nobody on this team can take that creativity to the level of where it needs. And nobody has for 3 seasons now.
And that's why you said we should have, yesterday, this is the way I saw it. After halftime, I'm thinking, okay, our mids aren't cutting it. Drop Dybala, put Morata up front, take out Ramsey because he wasn't performing yesterday, even though he should in that role. Your mids, okay, you've got two guys exactly the same. Take out one, put in Artur. At least he can hold the ball. That's one thing I got to give him.
He's great at possession.
Yeah, he can hold it. The other guys can't. Bentancur gets the ball, boom, one touch is gone, and he doesn't even give it properly. Yesterday, I wanted to strangle him because he was making these one-touch decisions. I'm like, I wouldn't even do that. I'm thinking, control that. And he's just headering it. I'm like, what are you doing? You're in midfield at the top level and you cannot control a ball with no pressure in front of you.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
But the initial comment, again, was, and Arthur, the possession, you still need a possession guy. But again, that doesn't change the original comment that you have a driving force out of the middle of the park that can just take that ball at his feet, control, and attack and draw defenders in and create openings out of the middle of the park for our forwards. The other thing is to go down the line. there's no proper alternative for Morata at number 9. Okay. And the number 9 role is crucial. We've seen that all this season, especially in whatever Pirlo's system is.
Yeah.
He needs a 9.
Yeah.
And it's night and day. And 2 games ago, I even said, with just Ronaldo the ball up top, I said, are these guys going to drift all over the place and we're going to have no focal point? And that's kind of exactly what happened yesterday.
That's what happened, yeah.
Against a low block.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to see this, right? But regardless, yeah, there's issues on all levels. As far as Pirlo goes, I say if you can make a commitment right now to somebody that's experienced, whatnot, just start there and just create some stability. Start somewhere. Because now I can't keep listening to the same thing too, and the same struggles and the same issues. And regardless of if we believe players are to fault too, you can't change the entire roster, not in a COVID world either. So something's got to give.
So this is the argument now. You get yourself a good coach, let's say, for discussion's sake. Let's say Allegri comes in, right? And this is where I had the disagreement yesterday, because I'm all for him coming, because I think at least for a year he might do well. But this is where, for me, the biggest change should come in our sporting director. Since Marotta left, Paratici has done a good job in getting, a handful of players. And I'll give him props where he deserves it. But like you said, these little patchworks have not benefited us. Everyone's saying, oh, DePaul, oh, Locatelli, oh, we need this. Yeah, we need a lot. But what the issue is this summer, there's still a lot of selling that needs to be done. You have to offload, first of all, guys that are on loan. Let's go off the loan list now for a second, quickly. De Sciglio might stay in France, right? Hopefully. That's what we're hoping right now. Rugani looks like he's okay there. He's not starting anymore, but he might stay. At least he's in Italy. He might be happy with that. Costa comes back. That's something that's going to be hard to move. And forget move, but move for some sort of decent money, because I don't remember what we paid for him, but we're probably not going to make money off of him. So you're already down. You're negative now. Then you expect them to sell Rabiot, Ramsey, maybe Sandro. These are 3 guys that I'm not going to say are hard to sell, but we already have a hard time selling in general. You really want to move all these players and then get that all done in one transfer window? Have you met our sporting director? It's not going to happen. In the end, what's going to happen is we're going to be stuck with the same issues. We're still going to have a 36-year-old up front sucking 31 mil out of the team, and we're going to have to get rid of Dybala if we even get the chance to, and we won't even make money off of him. And we're going to be stuck with Sandro. We're going to be stuck probably with Rabiot still. We'll be lucky if we move Ramsey. And then here's the kicker. I'm all for, going after young talent. They're going to dump 10 to 12 million, possibly on Donnarumma, who, great player, but that's another huge chunk of salary, which we should put somewhere else. Because, yeah, sure, Chesney's not, been great lately, but I don't think he's a fundamental issue. I think there's more to it than just our goalkeeper. I think everyone else gets better. Goalkeeper should be fine, because I don't think he's our priority in terms of issues.
It's not a priority, but again, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes like an opportunity like that's tough.
The opportunity is there. That's what I'm saying.
And to be honest, with what Chesney's done as of late, especially, not exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do agree.
He has been going down a bit, but it's regardless. Not being able to change players, does that not make all the more sense to get somebody experienced that can maybe do a little more with the players we have? That's the strong argument that everybody's making that's on this pull the trigger thing, right? And it's a tough one. I've seen it go both ways in sports. Like when you change a manager mid-season or at a certain point of season to get a reaction, spark the guys or whatnot. But for me, the issues run deeper. And like I say, do it. That's fine. But let's not do the same thing we did with Allegri and all these guys and just do it for the sake of doing it. Have a fucking plan. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
Have a plan.
Yeah, that's it. And you're right. And that's what frustrates me. It's like, if you look at every season in the last 3 years since Allegri left, the plan initially, let's say he wasn't like, okay, we expect him to leave, but the plan after him, right away we saw that Sadi was not the first choice. We knew that, right? So He comes in, he's not the first choice. We need to start plugging in players for him. And we started purchasing players for him. We did. And now that we have these players, we got rid of him. So,
Yeah.
as you said, at the beginning of the season, no one expected us to go for Pirlo. No one expected that at all. I would have been better off, I think, more comfortable with Sadi staying for a second year, even though I hated him. I think at least he would have had time to build something and maybe show it because, let's be honest, one season, not everyone picks it up in one season. Not many coaches do. And those that do, you know what, they end up being something special, but they don't last 5 years. It's usually like 1 year and then, it levels off. So, like you said, there has to be a plan.
There absolutely has to. And here's one of the things is there was a report being put out there saying that the veteran group of the squad approached Nedved saying that like this, we will not be getting top four. And this is where part of my frustration goes and part of why I feel for Pirlo is because even the veteran group has not been cutting it for this team.
Yep.
I've been saying for how long? We have a 23-year-old in Federico Chiesa who literally embodies what it should be like and has been setting the standard. Okay. And the veterans haven't even been able to match that drive.
That's right. That's definitely right. Yep.
They haven't even been able to match it. CR7 for me is checked right out. He's checked right out.
Yep.
And yesterday, like it's crazy that again, you could talk about options or whatnot, but get him off the pitch. But everybody wants to talk about CR and whatnot, his ability, like his professionalism and how hard he trains and the work and the level he keeps up to. But honestly, this scenario is leaving a very, very bad taste in my mouth in regards to CR7's time with Juventus, because I've been talking about it for a while, the wrong attitude and everything like that. And it should be the other way around. He should be the one up here that everybody's trying to match and whatnot. Frustrations, being pissy about not scoring goals or like not making it further in Champions League and all this, whatever. Don't be a bitch about it. It's the easiest way I could put it.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right, because he's a good role model, when we're in winning ways because he wants to win, right? But when we're in losing ways, which is what we're in, he's a terrible role model because he doesn't know what it's like to lose, and he's a terrible loser. And you know what? Yes, okay, as a player, if you're mad because you always want to win, I get it. But when you just won a game, let's say 2-1, how can you still be mad? Like, fucking take the win and show the example, and don't be pissy, like you said.
But it's not even being mad. Like, that's okay. So you're mad? Take it out on the opposition.
Yeah.
Have that fight. Have that drive. Like, he was so solid. And yesterday he led so many counterattacks for Fiorentina. Not for us, for Fiorentina. And
he gave away the ball 3 times.
Shockingly bad. And then you tackle on missing sitters, and it's crazy. But he's got to be a guy that we feed off. And I've been saying it for a while. I think we're locked in. The market's not there right now with COVID times or whatnot. So we're locked in. He's going to finish up with us. I'd be shocked if CR7 wasn't still with us next season, which is fine. If you score goals or everything, whatever, but the attitude's gotta pick up. And hopefully if they do make a managerial change, it's for the better systematically, and we can get him where he needs to be with his frame of mind and whatnot, because right now it's just not there. And I can't help but feel that CR7 is checked out. You were kind of going along the lines of players and the Mercado and everything like that. And we get into this discussion with guys all the time. Will certain players even help this squad? Is it all this managerial thing? So the question's asked, are certain guys going to help this team? Because there's some fans that just fail to believe that you bring in a certain player, nothing's going to change because of tactics, because of, lack of motivation come from a manager and whatnot. How do you feel about that? Do you think that there's still abilities and traits like will certain players help this team, even in the current state we're in and the system we play and everything?
Yeah, I think obviously if we're in a shit situation, like even the best player in the world, example Ronaldo, might still, falter. And I think that goes for anybody. But it comes down to the question, you got to get guys now that just want to play for the badge, right? You got to get guys that want to show their worth. And Chiesa is a perfect example, like you used. This guy, how many years were we linked with him? It's like 2 years now. Finally, we get him, and we knew he wanted to come because he could have gone anywhere else almost. He came, he proved himself, and he fought for that. So I think, yeah, okay. Obviously, if you have a lackluster group, and it's obviously more difficult for someone new. But if they have the skills and the let's say the motivation necessary, I don't think they, I don't think I don't think it's going to be an option for them to do shitty. Like, let's say, let's take the two examples. Weston and Chiesa are both new to this team, right? From this season, both came from inferior teams, but they were performing well in those teams. So someone on Twitter said it to me the other day. It's the atmosphere, right? I think it was they were arguing for Castrovilli, and they said that he would do well in Juventus, and I think anybody could do well in Juventus because it is a big club, right? If you have what it takes, there's no reason. We're not looking at you because you're just cheap. No, we're looking at you because you have the necessary skill set, right? So you have this skill set. Now you have to find it within yourself to, again, as a player, professional player, to just perform and push and push and push. So I think you can have a crap team, but if you have players that are willing to push, such as Chiesa, such as Weston, I think these guys will play for the badge and they will stand up. Like it. I mean, obviously, if you go get like these really high class players, you can't just pop in a Tony Cruz into this team and we have a good team again. No, it could be that he completely shits the bed. But I think if you get a young, motivated, Italian player, your options, aside that are slim. And I think is the let's say the stats of him, the percentage that he will do well is higher. I think you have more odds of him doing better than somebody else.
Yeah, I I don't. Some of the stuff he said, like Chiesa was not performing very well right before we got him at Fiorentina.
Oh no, well that I blame that on the coach because he putting him defense like that was.
No, but I'm just saying like we
Yeah.
tabs on those guys, but like Chiesa wasn't in a run of form by any means. But I did say like you could see the tools. You could see the tools were there, the skill was there, potential was there all the time. I've always been a fan of him. I never liked the price tag on him,
Right.
but yeah, he was. You could see that, right? In terms of these players, though, again, if regardless of what we think of the system or what the coach is doing and whatnot, you have holes and you're lacking guys that can do provide certain elements in matches. As far as the grit, the fight and stuff like that, and two, number one, we just have no real assholes on the team, to be 100% honest. We need some of those guys. We don't have any. Like our last like true asshole to play against was probably like Mandzukic.
Yeah, Mandzukic was the last one.
Demiral could be that guy, but now all of a sudden he can't even stay healthy.
Yeah.
So he can't even stay healthy all of a sudden to be that guy. But you need some assholes on the team. We've lost that. Left back again, sore spot. Quadrado's filled in massively in terms of contributions to assists or whatnot. I still say he's not like a true fullback. And in our setup, I like him a little bit more forward. And I like Danilo being in behind him or whatnot. But I mean, ideally, we need some fullbacks in the middle of the park again. And I saw some comments coming in here about Artur and being necessary. Absolutely. He's still necessary. But what we were alluding to is he's not a creative guy.
No, but
Bentancur has struggled historically in the attacking phase. Rabiot, we've seen very limited on that. And then you go on with about Ramsey, very, very hit and miss, and you factor in injury issues. It's frustrating. Weston McKennie has been solid. I think he would have been solid the whole way through had he not had hip issues. And it's just frustrating, but we lack guys. So when people say that even taking in certain players will not change his team, I fail to believe.
Agree. Yeah.
I fail to believe that if you bring in certain guys that can provide you with something that you're not getting, it wouldn't help. That's not to say that the system and all that doesn't need to be sorted, because of course it does.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think, and this, I truly believe this, even if you brought in a system that helps these guys, that's like catered to these guys or whatnot, you still have certain guys that won't be able to give you what you need.
Yeah.
You will still have certain guys that will not give you what you need.
I'd say of the 11 that usually start like in and out, I can firmly defend maybe 5 or 6 that deserve to be playing for us. And some of them are even like my favorites, but I will say it. There's games where they do not deserve to be there. Like let's look at Bentancur for an example. Last season, I would have argued yes. He was our best midfielder, but what does that tell you? That tells us that our mid last year was laughable, right? When especially Pjanic, who was a veteran, was looking like a little girl. But this season, looking at that, to me, Bentancur took such a dive, and he is at most, I'd say, a substitute or like a club level player. Like he's there for the league at most, because we've seen the mistakes he's made. We've seen his inability to just stand out efficiently and consistently. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for here. So, as you said, I think obviously if you get certain guys in, I know what you're saying, that I don't see it where you bring in a good player. I don't see that they're just going to flop and it won't help. Obviously, I think it will help to a certain extent, but like I said, it's not. You can't just toss in a world-class mid and expect everything to change. It won't. There's still fundamental issues. It's exactly what. Let's say again, we're picking on Ronaldo, but you put Ronaldo in this team, it didn't solve any issues. It helped us a lot, but it caused issues as well. So there's always going to be both perspectives, right? So I think it won't hurt us to bring in new players. I think it's necessary, because a lot of what we've been talking about today is the patchwork that we've done in terms of mercatos. So look for the right players. Look for players that would suit the coach that we'll end up having. Because, again, my argument is don't get a coach, specific players, and then get rid of this coach. Then these players are worthless to the next guy, in my mind.
And that's another thing, too. Like, they're not going to be completely worthless. I mean, every manager has certain guys that they look for to their system or whatnot. But a lot of these guys wouldn't be useless in my opinion. It's tough. It's like, again, just looking at traits and abilities. You need that true regista. You need a guy that can drive the ball forward, that has some dribbling ability, and then you need that enforcer, the guy that's the ball winner and whatnot. Every midfield I've seen that succeeds and does very, very well and can impose its will on teams has those traits and abilities.
Those traits, yeah.
We're always sacrificing something in any combination you put this midfield. And that's why I say it is part and part players. Because if people just believe it's a manager, no, a manager should do whatever. It's a manager's job to bring in the best. I agree. It's a manager's job to do the best with what they have. However, if you took that to that extreme and held them to that whatnot, you could theoretically say, okay, this guy's an experienced manager. Take Crotone. I want you to win everything.
Yeah, well, that's it.
It doesn't work that way, because you need the quality guys and the skills and traits to be able to do that. So a manager, sure, you could put an experienced manager there, and he'll probably take Crotone and maybe help them at least survive. Like get out of there and whatnot. But he's not going to all of a sudden be world beater, because you still need the guys. And when you look at it, our guys, for me, they're just not cutting it. They're just not. So it's everything. It is the manager. It is Pirlo. It is. And it is the players.
Yeah,
Absolutely it is. You
absolutely.
cannot go into matches with an insane amount of opportunities and come out dropping points to teams that get like one or two opportunities and end up drawing you in a game. Like, and the goals, when you're allowing goals and they come from your own errors. And this is the part that's frustrating.
Oh,
The basics.
the
We're
base.
doing basics wrong. And that part of it, for me, I really, really go at the players for
Yeah,
getting the
yeah.
basics wrong. But again, and this is another thing too. Typically, what would you want a manager to do when that happens? You want consequences dished out. You want him to like make an example and set the tone for the team. How do you do that when those opportunities arise and you have no other options?
Example. Let's go to this one as an example. If Sandro has a terrible game like yesterday, where's the discipline? You can't replace him. Who are you gonna put there? I mean, sure, Eric's gonna come in right now and say put Bernadeschi, which we've all said at least once. Why not? But like,
As
he has
a
no
wing back,
competition.
sure. As a proper left back, yeah, we saw that, and we saw the good, and we saw the very, very bad
Yeah,
of it. So it's tough, right? And
right.
this is what I mean, and it was hard. We have so many things that need correcting. The identity, the system. We need certain traits and abilities, and our core is changing. And these veteran guys, the veterans on the team, haven't been cutting it either. Chesney has not been providing stability whatsoever.
No.
Chiellini, bless his heart, gives you everything he has, and for the most part is still, in my opinion, solid, and I go with him. But even he has been, not himself. Bonucci is the days of Bonucci, being that's all. BBC,
I
like
just realized now,
he
and
did
now that
well with
you're saying
Sarri
that,
last season
no,
until COVID hit, and then Bonucci's been a different guy. These vets aren't where they need to be either. We need to get the core in, like establish a new core and get things going.
and you see it coming. We do see the young guys who are stepping into these roles and are doing it well, and they have been, you know, consistent, and we could all stand by them. If you don't name Danilo, okay, the like the season hasn't been stellar, but he's still obviously a pillar for me. Chiesa's in there as well. Cuadrado has had a great season. He's a veteran, so he definitely deserves a shout. You see these guys stepping into this role, and you know what? It's I just realized now because you said it. We might lose Chiellini and Buffon next season. These are two guys going out that we're not getting money off. So that's even two other holes we have to fill next season.
Yeah.
And
The other thing too, and when we look at this as well, and this is why I say there's problems on all levels. How many team goals we scored this year? How many goals
team
are you
goals.
look at and you're like, man, that's right off the training pitch.
Uh,
You just very, very rare. And this is why I
yeah,
say, it's everything, man. It's
yeah,
players, it's coaching, it's everything. And the spirit, team spirit, Abdulrahman talking about, need the team spirit and the confidence restored. That's hard to do if the other stuff's not coming, if the results aren't coming, if there's no belief in system, all this, like it's everything, man. It's coach and it's
yeah.
player.
And
But this is what happens in sports. And managers fall sometimes, even if it is the players doing or
yeah,
whatnot. Somebody's got to be held responsible.
someone has to take the hit. Yeah.
Does it go a level higher? I want to ask everybody that's joining us on the live, because I've seen splits on this. Agnelli, should he remain? And Luca, I want to get your thoughts on this. And everybody that's joining us on the live, I want to get your thoughts as well, because I've seen mixed out there. And Luca, should Agnelli remain?
100%. He's got blood on his hands, just like anybody else in this team. But if you tell me to picture a Juventus without Agnelli at the head, it rubs me wrong. My core feels like it's been ripped out. Like something like, yes, he's controversial. Yes, he's hard headed. But like, we wouldn't be where we are. let's say in the last 9 years, if it wasn't for him. So I don't think it lies totally with him, because once he's gone, I think we lose a lot. Like, he's just done so much. I think the pros outweigh the cons with him. And as much as he's a stubborn, businessman, whatever you want to call it, he's built this team in what it is. And I don't think he, as a president, is our biggest issue, because he's looking always at the future. He's looking, like, people give him shit for the Super League. I applaud him for being honest and open and out there, and for taking that risk, because if you want to be a top club in Europe, you need someone like him. So I don't think it's necessarily on him, because I don't see anybody else really replacing him. To me, it comes down to maybe the guys around him. And I know, again, he's got dark spots, but I think the pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, again, who comes in? Who comes in for a presidential role? And I don't see it. And I think he just needs to sort out the guys that make up the board with him, because honestly, there's been too much separation there at the top. Like, even when we go back to Allegri leaving and Paratici and Nedved pulling for it, Agnelli not really into it, and then Agnelli ended up going their route or whatnot. But the plan was just, okay, let's just take Sarri, as if it almost seemed like, we were going to get Pep or whatnot. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, here, take this guy. And it's like, what are we doing here? It's been chaos. It's been chaos from that level. And now, just over time, it's trickled down.
Yeah,
it's just trickled down. Is what happens. And now we just got to sort things out. We got to figure this out. So, real quick, are we even getting top four, Luca? Are we getting top four?
Why? Why do you got to do this? Why?
If Pirlo remains, are we getting top four?
I'm scared. I'm really scared. I've never been this worried in my life. The hopeful in me wants to say yes, but I looked at the next 6 matches we have. Holy crap. I mean, look, Juve, stubborn as they are, they show up in big games for some reason. We'll play the shit teams this season and we shit the bed. But when we play the big teams, some of the times we show up. Like, let's be realistic. Atalanta, we only lost 1-0. That's a strong team. I think we could take the fight to the big clubs, and I'm not as worried for those for some reason, but I'm still scared. So I can't even answer this right now, because I don't know. I'm shitting my pants.
It's scary. It's scary. If Allegri comes in, same question. Do we get top four?
If Allegri comes in?
Yeah.
Like right now?
Yeah.
Probably simply because of the fact that it would be a whole like flip of a scenario, and it's like, it's again, it's the hangover effect. Stuff shit just like, it's different from before, so it has to be better until it gets worse. So I think maybe, but I don't think that's the right thing, because then you're handcuffed with them, right? Then what? You got top four, now what?
But you feel more confident in getting top four.
Just because there'd be a drastic change. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Maybe, just maybe, that move happens. Maybe, man. But it's interesting to see that the confidence level, it does get affected. Right now with this team. I think a change, man, that's just the only thing, is you got to be ready to commit.
Yeah.
So no more of this, hey, Allegri's here and he can get us by with whatever, right? Like, no, let's get if we're going to commit to him, let's get him the guys he's after, he wants, and let's actually commit to this. You know what I mean? Again, I'm scared always. We look at this, because I still, throughout all this season and all these points dropped, we still have had a team. There's still only a handful of matches, maybe 6, 7, where we were actually outplayed.
Right.
And a few of them came as of late, because now we're almost on an actual like downward spiral. Like we're
Yeah,
spiraling
like
now.
we make it worse. We make it sound worse than it really is. And I
We,
obviously were.
yeah, like a lot of those matches, a lot of those points dropped. We actually outplayed our opposition.
Yeah, yeah.
We played better. We had opportunities, and we weren't finishing. And this is why I've got frustrations with our players. But now it's spiraling, and something has to happen in order to preserve top four. Because if this club doesn't get top four, that's the thing that really, really is scary to think about.
I can't see us in Europa League. I can't. Fuck.
Man,
Banter era. Here we come.
it's scary, scary stuff, and they've got to do something, and that's why I don't know if we sit around and wait anymore. And I put the question out there to pull the trigger. It might be time, man. And if Allegri's just out there sitting,
well, apparently I saw it
Mourinho's out there. No fucking way in hell do I want Mourinho.
No, Mourinho's not happening. But apparently, from what I saw this morning, Roma's making the move for Sadi. So if that's happening, that means Max is not going to Roma, which leaves him open still. So he's just waiting.
Well, the rumor was that Max turned down 3 years at Roma.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's just waiting for Agnelli to show up on his knees. He's not going to go anywhere else. I don't see him going anywhere else. Like, fuck.
Yeah, the thing is with, here's the thing. It's so frustrating to think about all this and all, and just where we're at as a club, and like the fear of not getting in the top four or whatnot. But Allegri's out there, man. It's just like, what else do you do? At least provide your team with something, because right now they need something. You can't change the players, that you want. You can't do that right now. The players, as far as their production, their execution, it needs to come down to them giving a shit that Pirlo's essentially been axed, and partly because of that. It needs to be, issued that way. That we're not where we're at today solely because of Pirlo, and it needs to be expressed, and the players need to then elevate it. But you have to. I think at this point, you absolutely have to do something. It's the only shakeup you can do. I was against it for a bit, because I was just like, what are your options? Who are you going to commit to and whatnot? Committing to Allegri is not, again, I would not commit to Mourinho.
No.
Who are our options out there? At the time when we could have, I was making a case for Pochettino.
Yes.
And I still stand behind that. I think it would have suited us or whatnot. The money, they didn't want the money. Well, in life, you get what you pay for. That's just like a common saying, and it's holding true right now for Juventus.
Mm-hmm.
Whether people don't like, and believe me, there's a couple guys out there I would want before going to Allegri.
But he's the only one available.
Is that they're not out there, and it's not going to happen unless that's why Juve is hoping and holding out. Maybe they know something we don't in terms of managers. Maybe.
Never know anymore.
But it's getting very, very scary to watch this unfold. And like we talked about, the potential of not getting top four is that's a scary one.
Yeah,
that's a tough one, and it's tough for us to wrap our heads around based on these 9 years and how they've gone and whatnot. Right? In terms of Udinese this weekend. Okay. This is the frustrating part, is the Fiorentina one was a must win. Parma, Fiorentina, Udinese were must wins.
Yeah.
After the 1-0 loss to Atalanta.
I mean, look, we got a point. I'll take it. It's obviously not good. I'm not happy about it, but it could have been 0. So point. We move.
But it felt like a loss.
It always feels like a loss. Always
felt like a loss.
Yeah.
Michael Casimir with a great shout on Eric Ten Hag.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Honestly, that's a good shout.
Yeah,
that's a good shout. Mr. Rubicon, Conte was an option.
I
He
would not
was
have done
an
it though.
option at the time when we were breaking free from Allegri.
Yeah,
And honestly, there was an argument for that, a solid argument for
there's a
that
solid argument, but I'm
when we were
content.
in flux for identity.
Yeah,
Because let's not forget, our identity was lacking in Allegri's last year,
yes,
and it's
sir.
carried over now.
Yep.
So there was a good shout for Conte at that time.
At that time,
Conte's taken now. He's
I
off the
don't want
market.
to. Yeah, I don't want to hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Udinese, AC Milan, Sassuolo, Inter, and then wrap up with Bologna. And we have a Coppa Italia match, the final with Atalanta.
That's painful.
Honestly, winning the Coppa Italia would
It changes nothing at this point
it
if you don't make top four.
wouldn't even matter if you don't get top four because
Yeah.
of how drastic
Yeah.
that would affect the club if they get outside of top four. So Udinese on the weekend. Man, how confident are we in this victory? Like
They're gonna slap. No, sorry. DePaul is gonna have the game of his life, and you're not gonna hear the end of it on Twitter. And this is exactly what's gonna happen. We know it.
you're fucking killing me. Okay, you can have the game of his life, but the team still lose. Gotta win there. AC Milan on Sunday the 9th.
They have who are they playing today?
I feel good about.
I feel good because they're not on a good streak right now, and they have injured players. So depending how they do today and how their players come back, that one I feel
they play Lazio today.
You see, that's it. So I think they had two guys come back. I think it was Hernandez and maybe Zlatan. They're back for today's game, but they're like iffy. So if they don't make it to the next game against us, which obviously is in 2 weeks, but they're not in the best form right now. So I feel okay with that one.
Yeah, I feel okay when we'll play AC and whatnot.
Yeah,
Inter
for me is I think we could take them, but we have to we can't do what every other team's doing. We can't just hold off and then let them score in the 7th. We need that.
We handled them great in the Copa.
Yeah, that's it.
Handled them great in the Copa. And the Serie A tie, first one was absolutely.
No, but we learned, and he adjusted. You have to give him that. He adjusted.
Oh, it's the same old with this one, man.
Yeah,
buckle up. It's gonna
be a bumpy ride.
It's gonna be intense. It's gonna be crazy, and full scale changes I expect for Juve, honestly, and I think it's needed, but they have to be the right ones. That's the thing. Is like the moves they make have to be the right ones, and we have to commit. We have to start to commit. We can't scramble all the time, and then just be like we have to change this, and this all over again. 4 managers if Pirlo leaves in 3 seasons. That's
awful. Yeah, that's awful.
Absolutely unheard of, and makes everything else extremely difficult for even the players involved and whatnot. So we absolutely have to create some stability in terms of the players, especially the vets. They need to get it together, and they need to be ready each and every single minute that they're out there now. And these performances and the attitude and whatnot absolutely have to pick up. If it's not coming from your manager, then pull out the fucking self-pride, self-motivation, and get yourself going.
Yeah.
For God's sakes.
100%.
Because at the end of the day, nobody's looking at you guys and saying, oh, yeah, well, it's the coach. He should be embarrassed. Like, no, the players need to be embarrassed too. And they need to get themselves going. They're better than this. And they need to get going. Will we do it? Who knows? But again, buckle up. I was talking to Juventini at during this one, and oh my God, the halftime reports, and everybody's like, well, I'm going to fill up my gin and tonic, or like others beer. Some people turning off their TV and simply walking away. Luca, have you ever walked away from a Juve match or shut it off?
This season was the first time ever. What game was it? Oh, shit. It wasn't Porto. I remember I watched to the last second, and I was in shambles, but it was shit. It was right after that. I think it was against Torino when we lost. Or did we tie against Torino recently?
Draw.
Yeah, okay. So I think it was that game where I walked away. I was just beyond angry. I have never in my life walked away from a game, even when we're like down. I've always had some hope just to see, just to watch. I've never. This was the first time I think. Yeah.
I've paced and maybe walked out
Oh
of
yeah,
the
no,
room
no.
to come back or whatnot.
I'll never
I've paced.
walk
I've
away.
never actually walked off. I've fallen asleep more than I'd like to over the past couple seasons. Sometimes
That's
watching
a good
a
one.
flat in the players,
Yeah.
I've passed out a couple times and then had to go back a certain amount of 15 minutes, 10 minutes here and there. I'm not going to lie about that one because sometimes it's just like, my God, it's tough to watch. But hopefully the guys get it together. Hopefully they get it done. I've just, it's crazy to see where we're at in terms of just everything. You know, like you go from 9 consecutive years of winning. There's issues here and there, and there's things that need to be addressed. But now, if anybody would have predicted this, it's impossible. Like you have a president that's being talked about leaving. You have a rookie manager that the team brought in and wanted to somehow keep expectations all the same. And then you have this huge influx of players. You have one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player to ever play the game, and he's not himself. And, you know, like the contrast from when Ronaldo joined us to now, you know, and that's why I say I think he's just checked out because it just hasn't gone the way any of us would have wanted
Yeah,
or
that's for sure.
whatnot. And it's crazy to think of such a turnaround from where we were and where we're at, and just not even talking about an ability to maintain, but we've just completely fallen off the tracks, you know. And when people want to talk about Agnelli and whatnot, for me, like my eyes, and I've said that, I think I said it 2 months ago on the pod before the whole Super League and all this, my eyes have been on him. How's he going to react? How's he going to respond? How's he going to get us back on track? And that remains the same. And if we're all of a sudden going to pull in a new president, you want to talk about maintaining stability or keeping some type of structure. If we're going to start at that level, I'm going to get ready for some banter years for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Like, I don't think a president comes in here in this circumstance, in this situation, all of a sudden it's like we're rolling. I think, you know, if Agnelli was looking to move at some point, you still have to lay the foundation, get things on track, get it moving consistently, and then make that transition at that level. But to do it now is just like my God.
I don't see that. I mean, for me, of the three, I think Paratici is probably the most replaceable. Nedved, I would say too, but because of his ties with Raiola, we literally, that's the only reason we need him. So for me, of those three, unfortunately, Fabio is the only one I see actually replaceable at this moment.
I think the biggest thing was when we lost Marotta.
Marotta was a big. People don't realize how much that
Marotta
affected.
and Paratici, I think, complemented one another. I think it got to a point where, you know, obviously the minds just weren't aligned.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you could have combined the two, but Marotta was great, but he was also cheap.
Right.
He was too cheap, you know, and wouldn't take those stabs. Or whereas Paratici, he kind of wants that flash, right?
Right.
The combination of the two would be fantastic. But I don't know. I'm ready for some rough days, unfortunately. But if it's like yesterday, I just took off. I went, had family day, did a bunch of yard work, had a beer. I felt much, much better. All I can say is find things to occupy your mind or whatnot, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. And even Anthony earlier on the pod said, buckle up. And that seems to be the phrase of the season, is buckle up.
Hey, at least we have a decent national team to look forward to this year, at least. Because in the past, it was like, What are we doing this summer? Like, what are we looking forward to? You didn't know. Now I have hope. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah. I even said it on the last international break because of how things were going for Juve. Holy shit, I don't think I've looked forward to an
Yeah,
international break
same. I said the
as
same
much as I did that last one, and it was nice to just talk at Zuri or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing lasts forever. In this dynasty we've been on, it's coming down, and it was an incredible ride. We should take pride in the fact that it'll never be replicated. In
Not
my
in
eyes,
City
I
A, at
don't think
least.
you'll ever see that in Syria again.
Mm.
And yeah, we just need to get to work and turn things around again. But stability with the president, if the right option's there for the coach, make the move in the Mercado, get top four, and then in the Mercado, bring in some key pieces,
Yep.
and we move, and
And
we
we
go
move.
from there. Hopefully, we get a trophy to celebrate in the Coppa Italia, and hopefully, we get that top four. As always, no matter what, I ain't going anywhere. I'll be, with the club, ride or die, no matter what. But let's just all wait and see how the team reacts, how they respond, how our leaders act, and see what changes do come, and assess what happens at the end of the term here. And let's see. But as always, no matter what, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. We'll be back. Enjoy your weeks, regardless. Everybody, thanks for joining in and tuning in live. Thanks for all the support, everybody. But enjoy your weeks. We got Udinese on the weekend. We'll have a good match day live before that, and of course the post-match pod where you guys can all interact. The interaction's been great as always, and we've got a special cool video, something fun to take our minds off of all of this. Okay. And it's going to come up later on this week. I think you guys will all really, really enjoy it. And it's going to be a new series that's part of the All Juvecast YouTube channel. And yeah, it's going to be geared around everything and players and legends, kits, everything. So it's going to be really, really cool. Excited to bring that to you guys. So stay tuned. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the pod. Thanks again for all the support. Ciao a tutti.